Welcome, everyone, to the 5th episode of the Stray Pixels podcast. Not currently sponsored by Stamps.com, so I guess I'll have to continue looting my postage supplies from the abandoned Office Max down the street. I'm your host, Colin Buchanan. I'm a staff writer here at Noisy Pixel, joined as usual by my co-hosts, Nathan Mejia, also one of our staff writers, and our editor-in-chief, Bailey C. Mangle.
Heyo.
So I'm going to skip past the catching up with everybody portion because we've just spent the last several hours talking to each other because we are actually recording this immediately after the Nintendo Direct presentation from February 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a little bit hyped up. We just wrote like a dozen or more pieces, probably a lot more than that. Our site briefly crashed because we were getting so much traffic, which thanks, guys. So suffice it to say, we're all pretty excited to talk about what went down. So I'm going to start with Bailey. Bailey, what was your favorite thing? Let's start with that.
Boy,
that got announced today.
So much stuff happened. So we have a convenient roundup article on our site if you want to go see that.
Check our Twitter; it's there too.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, personally, my favorite announcement is probably Xenoblade 3. I'm a big fan of 1, and I'm like kind of mixed on 2, but 3 from just from this announcement, it's seeming to be more akin to 1 somewhat.
That announcement looked beautiful.
It looked really good. Yeah.
And I think the thing that held everybody back on 2 was the weird unnecessary gacha system that I'm hoping that they learned was a stupid idea.
If that's not in 3, I'm fully in, man. I'm good to go. If they take that out, I'm fucking good.
We were all like seeing the trailer pop up and like the flute player, and we were all like, what is this? Wait, is this? I think I was the first person to identify it.
I think we all thought it was SMT for like half a second.
Yes, we did because it looked so different.
He looks like the SMT4 Pro Tag like a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was fun. I'm trying my very hardest to get more into Xenoblade. It's a massive undertaking when like really one Xenoblade game is as long as like 2 whole Trails games.
yeah.
Nate, what about you? What was your favorite?
I kind of got 2 of them. The first one was a big like kind of drop on the head, like, oh my god, I can't believe this is even happening. And that was Front Mission first.
So
I'm so happy.
I know nothing about this. So what exactly is Front Mission?
So Front Mission is think of it as a mecha SRPG. Kind of came out around the same time as Super Robot Wars. I think maybe a little bit before.
No, I think Super Robot Wars came first. Because Front Mission started on the Super Famicom.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, it's like this big like covert operations. Depending on what game, I'm kind of more familiar with Front Mission 3. Which is kind of what got the big.
It's the only one that had its original release actually like pushed. No, 3 and 4 both came out in the States, but because I have a copy of 4. 4 was PS2. 3 was the PS1 game, and that got released. I don't remember if it was released originally like on disc, but it was a PS1 classic.
Yeah, so, it was a PS1 classic, which is how I kind of played it. And its big claim to fame, at least for 3, was that its internet was huge because it had a whole made-up internet for this world that you could just browse whenever you wanted.
so like it was just in the confines of the game. Well, it wasn't like real internet.
But it's just really lore. Internet. It's just however much lore you want right there.
That's really cool.
And a lot of people kind of thought so. It's been since 2005 was the last actual numbered entry in the series. Was Front Mission 5 on the PS2. Did not leave Japan. But we've seen a couple spin-offs. We saw Front Mission Evolved, which was like an Armored Core action focused game. And then most recently we had Left Alive, one of the most mocked games of its time, which was a very blatant Metal Gear Solid ripoff. that was extremely annoying and irritating to play, and no one liked it. And it didn't have the front mission name on it, but it was set in the same universe. The dramatic failure of that had a lot of people convinced that the series was probably never coming back in its original form. Yeah. So if this does well, we might get more actual front mission games. And it's really cool to find out that they've brought forward not just the first game, but the first 2 games are getting remade, which is really cool because the first game eventually got here in the Nintendo DS port. But the second game has never been officially localized. I believe they've both been fan translated for a while, but never officially.
Oh, wow. This is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Especially for like a series where the fans get next to nothing and they have to do it themselves.
This direct was it felt like it was catering to like very specific.
It was, and I'm here. I was here for it. And it's so my favorite announcement. Y'all absolutely saw me going insane over Live Alive. I'm so happy, and it's kind of funny because, like, speaking of fan translations, Live Alive was one of the first big fan translation success stories done way back in the day by Eon Genesis, and it's kind of funny to me that we almost got like a trifecta of fan translated titles until Mother 3 once again didn't happen.
Can you imagine? Because so in the direct, so for people who didn't see the direct for some reason, they like begin it with like Earthbound, then we're like, oh, Earthbound coming to Switch Online, okay, and then they show Earthbound be
Other Beginnings.
Yeah. And then we're like, no way.
Like it really seemed like they were building up to something because like it felt like there was like something rising in the presentation. Like they did Earthbound and then they fade to black for a second and then they show Mother Beginnings and we're all like, no. And then it wasn't.
That would have been insane though, bro.
Yeah,
that would have been crazy.
Imagine, because we made jokes that if a certain game got localized or announced, that Bailey would just spend the rest of the direct screaming. We said something else, but I'm going to say screaming.
It's too soon in the video.
It's too soon.
Yeah, it's too soon in the video.
Can't taint our fucking listeners with that, you know.
But if Mother 3 had been announced right then and there, that would have been me.
I think we all love Mother 3 here, right? Like,
yes. I actually, when I was younger, I have it next to me. I jailbroke this PSP and I played it on a PSP GBA emulator, and that is how I played Mother 3.
Yeah. I did something similar with my 3DS, and I have both the translated and untranslated versions of Mother 3, and then I have Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings on that dual pack
Nintendo,
cartridge.
Let me give you money for this game.
So I think there's a couple of other games we should probably at least like touch upon here.
Absolutely,
of course.
There's a lot. We had so much. We were truly feasting today.
This direct was insane.
Bailey, do you want to pick next?
Probably Fire Emblem Warriors, because that was the debut game
we started with that, and we were all like, "What the hell is happening?" for a second. Because I don't know if anybody was expecting a second Fire Emblem Warrior.
Not Warriors.
Especially if 3 houses, like that's a little.
Well, so if they were going to make a second Fire Emblem Warriors, we now have a precedent where we're making these Muso spinoffs of like recent games in the series. So, for example, we have Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, which is specifically a spinoff of Breath of the Wild. So I guess it makes more sense than not. But also, Fire Emblem Warriors did not sell particularly well, as I mentioned literally earlier on our Discord, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, in terms of like Nintendo game sale expectations, is kind of minuscule. As of November of 2020, which was a whole year and a half after it came out, it had only sold 3 million copies, which seems kind of insane considering how many people will like go completely nuts over this game. But it's it's a relatively small fan base. So I don't
it's
know
a very
any of us-
vocal fan base is the
Yes.
thing, you know. So
Yeah,
it seems
yeah.
like
most of
bigger.
them seem like more focused on heroes on the on the gacha game,
Yeah, yeah.
which thankfully has been feeding them content for the last several years. But
I was gonna say, yeah, for
I don't know that
years.
I ever expected a full scale sequel to Fire
So
Emblem Warriors.
we don't know what this is. So like we don't know if this is in the same like continuity as Three Houses, if it's a different timeline. If I don't know. Also,
So Hyrule Warrior, I've played Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors. Hyrule Warriors like is pretty explicitly a a non-canon like timeline crossover that's kind of just meant to be like a highlight reel that pulls from all the different games in the series.
Oh wait,
yeah.
So I could have sworn. So there was, I forget. Like sometime last year, I think Nintendo was doing this like, there was some like Nintendo like tweet or something or like a short video they released of the Three Houses characters, and they were in like updated like models and stuff. I'm not sure if you guys were like.
I don't remember this.
That might have been for the OLED actually. For the OLED,
the Switch OLED.
Like they just showed like Fire Emblem Three Houses, and the characters look different. So I'm not sure if that was from this, maybe.
If that was like a teaser for this,
Yeah,
it could have been.
Yeah.
And the first Fire Emblem Warriors was a more original plot. Like it was set in an original setting. And had two main characters that we'd never seen before, and it like directly involved pulling characters from the multiverse of Fire Emblem to tell a unique story, as opposed to like being specifically tied to any individual game. So this is kind of to be expected, but also I don't think any of us actually expected it to.
I don't think
to happen.
That's Nintendo for you, though. You know, like that they really kind of subvert expectations.
It's kind of interesting though, because like now we're continuing this pattern of Omega Force putting seemingly a lot more work and love and effort into their crossover spin-off games. Because I'm like halfway through Persona 5 Strikers. I finally picked it back up again, and like the narrative is kind of hit and miss, but like I can tell that this game was made with a lot of there's love and care and attention.
It's a very impressive game. It's a very impressive game.
Yeah. With it.
Can I go?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like I said, we don't know where it is, but I have a feeling it's going to be kind of weird and time loopy. Because I saw post-time skip character definitely interacting with a pre-time skip character.
I'm telling you right now, someone used the power of waking, and there was like a parallel world line running alongside the original Three Houses, and they're gonna converge at the end. There's gonna be like a massive fight.
Yeah, it was just funny because I think I was surprised how much people were excited for it on the website, because I think I'm the only one from the website that really likes Three Houses.
Yeah, I have to really try Three Houses because I'm like really bad at strategy.
I have a hard time with it because it's so different from all the previous games. Like it genuinely, all that would need to happen if it just kept the weapon triangle, I would be all in on it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a contentious change that was made. That I don't know. It like made the game like more interesting to me because it made it feel more like a game of like playing advantages against each other, as opposed to throw a bunch of people at this and hope that it works.
Yeah.
I mean,
which there's more than that. I know there's more than that, but I'm like at the beginning of the game where it feels like that's all I'm doing.
And it gets kind of thing because you actually do have the weapon triangle there. It's just coming back in different forms and abilities. So characters that get swords will have like axe killer and stuff like that. And I've noticed if you throw an axe against a sword, the axe is going to lose out a little bit more, or at least do less damage than the sword will do the axe. So it's still there. It's just not like in your face and as important as it was in past Fire Emblem games.
So on the opposing spectrum of unexpectedness, we had Chrono Cross.
So do you mind if I interject here for a second?
Yeah.
So we actually, if you pay attention to the rumor mill at all, this is something that I think we've known about for a while. because we've been seeing Square hiring for a project that was heavily speculated to specifically be a Chrono Cross remaster, and the Chrono Cross article was actually the one that broke the site very, very briefly during the presentation. So y'all are passionate. I wish I had more to say about Chrono Cross.
Chrono Cross is I have a really weird relationship with this game. So I've never played through it all because I tried to emulate it in the past on like a really bad laptop that I had. But this game I know was one of the most contentious games Square has ever made. And it feels like the FF8 almost, like prior to FF8. So I'm actually really surprised they're even bringing this game back, honestly, because of its reputation. But
I'm trying to come up with like a better because like FF8 at least still had a lot of the key creatives on board. With Chrono Cross, like the writing, if I remember correctly, the writing staff is different.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll like the analogy is hard because this doesn't happen all that often. The only actually, you know what? No, I do have a comparison. It's like and this is going to be a contentious one. It's like going from Borderlands 2 to Borderlands 3. You see a lot of the same elements, but it's very clear that that basically the entire creative staff that was on board for the project is different, and it feels weird. But I have not played very much of Cross, specifically like because backlog panic, and I was kind of like put off by it a little bit to the point where I was like, nobody's pressuring me to play this game. I'm just gonna put it down. But I'm happy for the people that do like it, because apparently there's a lot of you out there. I'm very happy. You guys won today.
we fucking thrived, man.
Everybody thrived. About what games to pick up, or just talk about Chrono Cross?
No, I mean, if you want to talk
anything, Nathan, anything.
I just meant like going down the list. What game do you want to talk about next from the direct?
So we'll hit on it a little bit later too, because I'm sure. But it was a big surprise to see those Mario Kart 8 DLCs.
That was pretty. So
I was going insane. I was like, "There's no way they actually mean what they're saying here, right?"
Is that pricing is surprisingly generous?
That part, because Nintendo in the modern day and age, you guys definitely already know this. Nintendo has a reputation for charging as much as they possibly can. Like even the Live Alive HD 2D remake. Full price. It's going to be a full price box release, which I have mixed feelings about. I'll buy it, but I'll have mixed feelings about it. So the amount of content that's being delivered in this pass, and I'll give you that a lot of it is just up-renders of tracks that have already been done in 3D. But
so no, you got to remember there's more to it than just that, because you got to add all the anti-gravitational stuff.
Yes. But like, I can't imagine that it's going to be extensive. Like, I think that if they change a lot of these older tracks, because that the whole thing is playing on nostalgia. So if they change a lot of these older tracks that people are really familiar with, they're gonna be mad about it. So I don't think that there's gonna be too many changes. We might see I don't know, courses have an original and an alternate version, the way that they do for Smash Brothers stages, where some of them get an extra version with wonky mechanics. But I think that most people are just going to pick the originals that they already know, and they already know all the shortcuts and the best ways to drift. But it's kind of insane to me that we're seeing this level of value coming from Nintendo. I do kind of have to speculate, though, that it's because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was already supposed to be a definitive version of this game, and now they're adding things onto that cost extra money. So I kind of wonder if they were like, let's mitigate that. Most of the work here is already done. let's give it to the people.
There's also two other sports-esque games. There was the Switch Sports game, which I know Nate's excited for, and Strikers, the revival of Mario Strikers, which kind of mixed on right now. I don't know how.
I'm not thrilled by the look of the Strikers game. So it is specifically because it reminds me a lot of all of the other recent Nintendo sports titles that we've seen, where they really want to focus on this one new gimmick that they've added to the detriment of literally every other gameplay mechanic. Because you had you had really famously the Ultra Shroom in Tennis Ultra Smash, where they focused on that completely pointless game mechanic to the point where there was almost nothing else in the game. You have the stupid speed golfing in the new Mario Golf game, where like forget lining up your careful shots like you do in a good golf game. No, now you got a fucking motor because if you're taking time to line up your shots, your friends are going to beat you. And it I don't know. I want it to be good. I want it to, because I do see like they're trying to integrate the original art style from the original release. So I'm hoping
it just looks a little like
that one.
A little off to me. Just the art style does a little bit. I don't know, but
I think it's the way they presented it, because half the trailer is going back and forth between like in-game cutscenes to like kind of like how the original Strikers box art is. When I think of Strikers, I think of that more like harsher outline. So I think that made it a weird contrast.
So what I think that is, I think it's like actual like cut-ins during gameplay. Like I think when you use like a super move, it'll flash a cut in, like if you use like a limit break in a JRPG. It's kind of weird to like have it stop the game dead, because this is like a game where you're like trying to actively control things all the time. But I don't hate the idea if it means we get more cool artwork of these characters like that. But I don't know. I'm hoping for good things, but I'm preparing for it to be, another 6 out of 10. I am personally pretty excited for Switch Sports, a thing that I cannot believe they didn't have a lot sooner than this. It took them 5 years.
Yeah, I don't understand why it took so long. Like, this seems like a pretty easy to develop game too. I don't know why.
I have a feeling some of it was that they wanted to not talk about the Wii anymore, that the Wii is old.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Because even like that game, I wrote the article on it, and I even made the joke of relive the Wii. Welcome back to Nintendo Sports.
Man, the Wii's technically like a retro console now too.
It is not technically. It is a retro console. It's 2 whole generations old,
which is kind of feels disturbing to me in a way.
My dude, how do you think Nate and I felt when the GameCube and the PS2 became retro console?
Oh my god, I can't imagine.
When the N64 became retro, that's when I was like, oh crap, I'm old.
Jesus Christ.
I remember playing that game system when I was like, when you're just a twinkle in your father's eye, Bailey.
Fucking God.
I was a twinkle, man. But I was
God. And now he's just a twink.
Yes. The last game that really stood out to me, I think for me and Colin especially, is the Klonoa remasters.
I'm so happy that Klonoa gets like another chance in the spotlight. This series has never been popular outside of Japan, but it's just got a spark to it.
This is the time, man, for it to really thrive, I think, and it's also Switch only too. I think it's gonna finally find its audience here.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised that I know about Klonoa, because of as much as I care about Klonoa is Zero. I'm one of those. I just don't care about Klonoa.
It's niche because it's never really properly been pushed or marketed around here. And it genuinely is like a very basic kid-friendly platformer series, sort of like Kirby. It's very cartoony, very friendly looking. There's elements of it that are like Kirby. There's elements of it that are less than that, but that's what it all looks like. But I don't have a whole lot to say about it either. I'm happy. I hope that these are solid effort projects, because I would like to see them do well. I actually have another personal highlight of this, which was completely unexpected, and that is the Portal Companion Collection.
Really? Is it that unexpected?
Yeah.
Like, so okay. I did write the piece on this, and I put this in the piece. So a brief history of the way that Portal has been rolled out. So the original Portal was based on a game that was made by a bunch of DigiPen students who made a game called Narbacular Drop. And Valve bought this team basically and had them develop basically a game with the same concept, but tied into the Half-Life universe. And so that's how the first Portal was created. It was a very short experiment that like set the world on fire. It's commonly held as one of the best games that's ever been made. And it was included originally just in the orange box. So if you did not have a computer that could run it through Steam, which was the only place you could purchase it separately, the orange box came out for the 360 and for PS3, but the PS3 release was physical only.
Yep, and it was the worst way to play the game.
Those discs are not common. And this was back with, so the orange box also contained Half-Life 2, Half-Life 1, I think too. Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2, Episode 1 and 2, and Team Fortress 2, back when that was not free to play. And that was way back in 2007. Portal was never re-released on consoles since then. Portal 2, because the first game did so phenomenally well, Valve actually decided to make a sequel, a thing that Valve don't do anymore. And so Portal 2 comes out in 2011, sets even more of the world on fire. Portal 2 is like in my top 10 video games I've ever played. But again, it received a 7th gen disc release. It was available digitally this time on all platforms, but it has not been seen since. It was never. I believe it is backwards compatible on Xbox platforms, but it was never made playable on PS4. And I don't think like we have not heard much from Portal aside from Bridge Constructor Portal in the last 10 years. It's basically been fans keeping it alive. There's this really famous fan game called Portal Stories Mel that is effectively like a full Portal 2 length campaign made entirely by fans, set in the same universe with a bunch of the same characters. It's very good. It's very hard. I do kind of wish that Valve had like found a way to get that team to let them include it here. Because that would have been like a really nice just cherry on top of the truthful cake. The cake is here.
It's not a lie.
And that team also made a very brief VR tie-in game that I thought was very well done as a proof of concept. But Portal's been a super dormant franchise, and as unexpected as Half-Life Alyx was, I don't know that we were really expecting Valve to revisit these games or re-release them in a meaningful way. And the fact that they're now coming to Switch is really cool, because now there's a lot more people out there that can be exposed to them. I'm really excited for more people to get the chance to experience both Portal 2 story and the co-op campaign, because the co-op campaign is phenomenal. It's just a really, really exciting sign, hopefully, that Valve has not forgotten about these games and they're interested in revisiting, if not expanding upon them. So fingers crossed. Anytime we hear news out of Valve's actual development team, it is a good thing.
Yeah, especially since we for sure have thought that Valve as a game maker has been dead because Steam makes so much money. Why would they even bother?
They don't have to make games.
I guess the last thing we could talk about for this first half of the podcast is the lack of Mario in here.
Yeah, we got the sports game, and we got
I just mean
Kart, but you mean a new game,
platformer,
because the direct was supposed to be focused on like first half. Two games,
which then ended up being a lie because their last announcement is for fall. But
pay
that no mind.
So far we don't know what Nintendo's big holiday game is going to be, because it's not going to be Xenoblade 3.
It's not going to be Xenoblade. There is still a chance that the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild does arrive this year, but that's going to be something that they save for around E3 time if they have an announcement about that.
Yeah, for sure.
But that is like, it is kind of surprising that all we've seen recently, we got the re-release of 3D World with the Bowser's Fury expansion, but like it does seem like Nintendo is sticking to the Switch for the time being, despite the fact that it's, you know, very much showing its age. And I'm kind of surprised that we've heard basically nothing about, you know, a Super Mario Odyssey 2. I think that's a thing that a lot of people would be really down for.
Oh, you know what? I'm sad they didn't show like a Metroid like Prime HD thing.
Yeah, I think we're all waiting to hear about Metroid Prime in some capacity.
Like easy thing they could do too, just like a collection of the first 3 games. I think is what like people really want, you know.
So we like that does exist because we got the Metroid Prime trilogy for the Wii. What I think the issue would be is you can't really do a Wii level of motion control precision with the Switch because it doesn't have the sensor bar. The Switch's motion controls run basically just on their gyroscopes, which is why you frequently, like if you've played a game that requires you to point at the television, you have to there's a button for recentering the thing. So it kind of works, but
I do wonder if they would make like 3 was on the Wii. And I wonder if they would just make 1 and 2 just like controller based then. But that also feels like a missed opportunity.
Well, 1 and 2 were already. You mean make 3 controller based?
Because 1 and 2 were on Wii, right?
Yeah,
right.
No, 1 and 2 were on GameCube.
Yeah, 1 and 2 were on GameCube.
They came to Wii.
Right? And then the Corruption was on Wii. And then they rebundled them all with the new play controls back when that was a thing. With the control scheme from Corruption, which was great, by the way. That was a very good feeling shooter. It was kind of novel. But I don't know. Like clearly they've got something in mind if they're making Metroid Prime 4, but also where's Metroid Prime 4? It's vaporware. It's one of my games that doesn't actually exist because I can't believe it until I see it.
It's gonna actually be an Other M remake.
Might be. We need that to be remade.
We're not having another discussion about Other M. We just did that.
You know, do you remember what the Other M stands for?
Oh my god, here we go again. Like deja vu, man.
Yeah, man. It's the M stands for mother. It doesn't stand for Metroid, it stands for mother.
Metroid,
the other Metroid.
And on that that's about all we wanted to go in depth on for the direct from today. The other couple highlights, obviously we got a new trailer for Kirby. Kirby in the Forgotten Land, that looks kind of neat. I like the mouthful concept just as a new way of using like Kirby's physical abilities. That's neat. Project Triangle Strategy has a demo that was shadow dropped onto the eShop online. It goes pretty far into the game and you get save data transfer, so there's no reason not to check it out. SD Gundam Battle Alliance.
There was a Japan only game.
Taiko no Tatsujin Rhythm Festival, which you know, if you have the controller, you have the controller. If not, I don't know how many people are interested in this. No Man's Sky is getting a Switch port somehow. I don't know how the heck that's going to function.
Square Enix is quaking. They're
a look at a new mode for Splatoon 3 that was already in Splatoon 2. So cool, I guess. And specifically in Japan, we got an FMV mystery game called the Centennial Case. No word on if this is coming.
Oh no, it's the US,
but it looks pretty dope.
It is. In the West.
They just didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's on the Square Enix YouTube.
We're not weeb enough for that game, bro. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's all right. All right.
What were you saying, Bailey?
No, it is coming in the West, but
it is? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Actually, I think on multiple platforms. Yeah, it's coming to PS4, PS5, Switch, and PC.
That makes sense.
That'll be nice to see. So this was an extremely packed Nintendo Direct presentation. And in the second half of today's episode, we're going to talk about how it definitely was not always that way. As we take a look at the very beginnings of these presentations and how they sort of rose to the popularity that they have now. So we're going to take a quick ad break and we will see you right after that. And welcome back, everybody. Our second topic of the episode is going to be basically the history and a look back at the origins of live streams as company presentations. Because as it turns out, thing that I had not thought about until today, Nintendo's been doing this a long time. So the very first Nintendo Direct was called a Nintendo Direct, and it was October 21st, 2011. That is how long ago it was.
Wow.
Yeah. It was only about 8 minutes long. And the titles that were shown off, you will notice a trend. Freaky Forms, Your Creations Alive, Pushmo, Dylan's Rolling Western, Swap Note, Pokemon Rumble Blast, Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7, and then it ended with a new trailer for Zelda Skyward Sword, which was about to come out.
Oh,
yeah.
This is from humble beginnings.
That's a high quality Direct, man.
So Pushmo saw some critical success. I actually have it. It's like a fun little quirky little puzzle game on the 3DS. Pokemon Rumble Blast, I think, got largely forgotten about. 3D Land, it is a game that exists for the 3DS. They were really trying. People do like it. I'm not but in terms of the overall Mario pantheon, Mario Kart 7, I think, has basically been left behind at this point. Mario Kart DS had a lot more staying power. And then Skyward Sword obviously just got a full-scale re-release last year. So we finished strong, but it was extremely short, and a lot of it was games that, we today just do not remember. And that was the very first Nintendo Direct that was broadcast in Japan and North America. And by my count, so Wikipedia has a list of every single Nintendo Direct presentation, and this includes Pokemon Direct, Smash Directs, what used to be called Indie World presentations. So basically every Nintendo company live stream that they have ever done. By my count, there have been 162 of them.
What?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
What?
162. I counted. I went down the whole table and I counted. This is a long page.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
And that also included the third-party directs?
Anything that was specifically live streamed by Nintendo. So they do show off third-party games at some of these. Yes, sometimes they're third-party spotlights, but anything that was branded as any sort of Nintendo event.
Okay.
And it's kind of crazy. We've been through some iterations of stuff. We've got names we don't use anymore. We had one Nintendo Direct Micro, and now they're Nintendo Direct Minis. They rebranded that. We used to have console specific ones back when we had more than one console. We had the Nintendo 3DS Direct presentations, and we had Wii U Direct presentations. Obviously, the Wii U ones ended pretty quickly. And what we've got now are the main Nintendo Directs, which are the long form presentations like we saw today. Nintendo Direct Minis, which are usually anywhere between 5 and 12 to 15 minutes. Nintendo Direct Special, which typically are a look at one specific software title. So kind of like what we saw with Sony's State of Play recently for Gran Turismo 7. Pokemon Presents, Smash Brothers Presents, and Indie World. And then they've got this little special branding that they do for their E3 time presentations, which Nintendo has not done an actual in-person E3 presentation since 2012.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a huge deal too.
We're not going to talk too much about E3 because E3 is its own whole separate beast. but it was pretty influential in how these things got started, because a lot of companies were seeing sort of diminishing returns with their ability to do these, especially companies like Nintendo that were coming from across the ocean and facing a language barrier in terms of like, we want to have our executives up on the stage, but no one will be able to understand anything they're saying. Yeah. And live translation during one of these massive onstage events typically ends up being chaotic.
Yeah. I have to say though, it's a gripe I don't think everybody shares with me, but I hate the way they translate Nintendo Directs. I hate just
with the people just talking over.
So you're hearing like a snippet of Japanese, and it's like, "Hello, everybody, welcome to Nintendo Direct." I'm like, that's not his voice.
Yeah.
The second Direct has a couple more games that people actually do remember at this point. I already mentioned Mario Tennis Open, got a teaser trailer at this. Kid Icarus Uprising was the marquee title for this one. And it came with them announcing that Kid Icarus would be launched on the 3DS's 3D Classics line. And then we also got another trailer for Dylan's Rolling Western. It was the launch, and a teaser trailer for Spirit Camera.
How's that?
I remember Spirit Camera. It's a Koei Tecmo.
Koei Tecmo.
We tried so hard.
I think I might have saw Nitro Rad talk about that. It's like a weird like Fatal Frame-esque thing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like an AR Fatal Frame game.
We tried really hard to make the 3DS cameras like a thing. Yeah. It did not pan out because especially once the 2DS came out, the gimmick kind of went away, because the 2DS still has the double cameras that are supposed to allow you to take a three-dimensional picture, but obviously it can't display those pictures. And I think that the novelty of using your 3DS as a camera wore off the more we got like significantly better cameras in our phones. Yeah. Like it was a novelty when the DSi happened, but by the time the 3DS happened, it was kind of like you already have a thing in your pocket that does that and does it better.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I want to talk about is the third one, which was much bigger, which was an announcement for Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance.
Yeah.
The Kirby's Dream Collection Special Edition for the Wii, which is now an extremely valuable, coveted collector's item. Yep. The Pikmin 2 re-release for the Wii release. Why didn't they call them that?
Yeah, the Wii release.
Super Mario Land, Pokemon Conquest, and the announcement of the Nintendo 3DS XL. Not the new 3DS XL, the original one. Yeah. So that was something that we had kind of expected at that point, because the DSi XL had done fairly well, especially for people that couldn't deal with the teeny tiny screens on the DS. But it's kind of interesting to see them evolve, because this one was only the third one that was in North America, and we'd already gone up to 20 minutes. And part of that's because this was an E3 time presentation. It was June 21st. So that is very much in the world of this is what we're doing instead of E3 this year. But it's kind of neat to see like how quickly that built up to Nintendo having an entire hardware announcement at one of these events, and it was only the third time they'd done it. Mm-hmm. Sony didn't start this until much later. The first state of play was in 2019, and it was very largely VR focused. We got Iron Man VR, we got No Man's Sky, the VR update. We got Blood and Truth. We got Five Nights at Freddy's VR, and then we also got, in terms of not VR, Observation, which, if you guys have never played it, is this very interesting game where you basically play as the computer on a space station, and you have to flip between cameras and try to solve problems with your machine abilities to help the people that are on the space station. And then we got Concrete Genie and Days Gone, story trailers for both of those, and then Mortal Kombat 11. So Sony kind of came out with a lot more than Nintendo did for their first time, but a lot of it was for a pretty limited market. The second one was much more important because we got our first major look at Final Fantasy VII Remake. The only other thing that's notable enough to talk about here was Monster Hunter World Iceborne, but Final Fantasy VII Remake was the thing that solidified Sony's ability to do this. Because we were starving by 2019.
We were pretty desperate.
it's kind of funny that they chose 2019 to start it, just in general, because that's kind of how presentations are now just done because of the world we live in today.
Yeah, that was pretty fortuitous timing. And that was also the first year that they pulled out of E3. So,
yeah.
And then the third state of play, new trailer for The Last of Us Part 2, trailer for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the new one, obviously. The dope ass Death Stranding PS4 Pro bundle. If you've never seen this console, it looks cool as hell. The a demo for the Medieval remake, an announcement for Civilization 6 coming to PS4, and then we also got a drop for LA Noire VR case files. So we're starting to see Sony talking more about VR again nowadays, but back in the day, this was a huge push for them. So it's kind of interesting to see like how many times it came up, but it is crazy to think about like how long it took everybody else to do this thing Nintendo had started doing already. That's not ever the case. Nintendo is always the one who is trying to like, in terms of like what everybody else is doing. The only other thing that I can think of that Nintendo did first was something we covered in a previous episode, our lost episode, which was motion controls, and apparently also live stream presentations. And today we saw, I believe, almost 900,000 concurrent viewers for the Nintendo Direct presentation. And that's just on YouTube. That doesn't include Twitch.
Yeah.
So what did you guys see in terms of people's expectations for today's event? Because I think that the way that we kind of set ourselves up for these has changed a lot over the years.
Yeah, there you go.
Go ahead. I've always seen a very bad trend with the directs where everybody wants everything they ever wanted to be shown in a direct. Whether it be like stuff like that. I was half expecting some kind of Genshin for Switch because people are really wanting that.
We've been waiting for that for a long time. I still don't think it's going to happen, but I do understand that we've been waiting for it for a while.
Like that. I mean, even like I was half paying attention to chat. Like people were screaming about like Among Us stuff, and
what?
Yeah, like it was
Among
just
Us.
stupid.
So if you've never watched the live chats for one of these events, it's a kind of a brain dead experience because almost nobody's actually talking about the actual event. A lot of people will just be memeing. Previously, the game that everybody was screaming about was Elden Ring. Where's Elden Ring? And now that we are about to have Elden Ring, it's Among Us 2, a game that does not exist. Because they already canceled it. But now basically everybody jumps in chat to scream Amogus 2. Where's Amogus 2? It's not happening. They said it wasn't happening, and that's the answer.
People just
they don't
need
care.
something.
They don't care.
It's kind of like what kind of drives down the experience to me is, people on these things, because of the internet, you just kind of like, oh, we want this, oh, we want that. If there's not a new Smash, Nintendo's thing, Nintendo's dead. It's like,
I'm so happy that we're done with the Smash character announcement era, because the Smash fans made these really difficult. And like, I play Smash. I don't blame you guys for like wanting things, but the fact that every Nintendo Direct was ruined if it didn't have a new fighter reveal was exhausting from the outside.
And depending on the fighter, the Nintendo Direct was ruined anyways because they didn't want that fighter. To this day, I refuse to fucking play any Banjo game because of the Smash. Like, that character is dead. I would choke slam him and fucking Kazuma him off the cliff.
I still remember the mass, like, what the hell, when they announced Steve. That is how you say that name.
Steve?
That is how you say that name.
Because his name is always spelled Steve with a question mark at the end. That is how his name appears in Minecraft. If you go to change your character model, the default character model is Steve. So it's nice that we're past that, but now we're at a point where like the current thing in terms of the thing that everybody needs to have happen, or the whole thing is potentially ruined, is the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'm going to continue calling it that. It's so embarrassing that it doesn't have a name yet. And it's been nominated for the Game Awards twice already.
Yeah, I don't think it's embarrassing to like not have a name for it, because it's just like literally all they've said about it is, hey, this is happening. Here's
it's
kind of a concept trailer.
It's kind of embarrassing. Like,
not really. Like, how many gun companies have come out like, oh, this game used to be called this for like 5 years?
It's the name. Like, I don't know what else you could really
like when it happened the first time, because if you guys didn't know, Breath of the Wild 2, it's probably not going to be called that, has been nominated 2 years in a row for most anticipated game at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. And both years they have had to use a placeholder title because we don't know what the hell this game is going to be called. And it's like the embarrassing part just comes in the fact that like Nintendo is keeping this like so under wraps that they wouldn't even like at their big E3 time presentation for last year, they went out of their way to be like, hey, we're not doing any news on Zelda, not even the name. You guys have to wait. And it's like, but why do we have to wait for the name?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Because the name's not finalized. Like, nothing is finalized.
That's all I've got, is that they don't know yet.
They don't know the name.
So that's our current thing that ruins presentations if it's not there. We've also got last year during E3, the Square Enix presentation was ruined because it didn't have Final Fantasy 16 in it, or it did, but it was like literally like 3 seconds in a montage reel. It's hard out here, honestly. And my approach to this has just become, if you go in like expecting not to see things, but not expecting to specifically see anything, it just ends up being an easier experience to swallow. Because you're not disappointed. I get that that's a pessimistic outlook, but it's like these companies are going to say this when they're ready, whether it's, you know, later than it should be or not. And they're like, we had a lot of good stuff this time. I know that there's going to still be people disappointed that we didn't get Zelda, but you know, we don't know that we're getting it this year. And also, if they're going to show it, it's going to be in June.
Yeah, like that's
just how it is.
Like, a hard thing is I don't think we're getting Breath of the Wild 2 until after Nintendo has announced their new console.
That's a take.
A hard thing. Legend of Zelda, since the GameCube era, has always been a bumper game. They give you one bumper game between, which was Breath of the Wild. We'll get one, maybe.
Twilight Princess was also cross.
Yep, Twilight Princess was also cross. And then you'll get one game dedicated to that system.
But we haven't gotten a.
There's going to be another Zelda. I think they're going to announce before Breath of the Wild 2. I bet you.
That's like 30 head.
Because what will you do when your baby's taking too long to make? You make another baby.
Fair enough. I don't like. I'm not really like the biggest, most invested Zelda person, but like I want that for people. I want the children to be fed. So was there anything that either of you did specifically expect to see this time that we didn't get?
I mean, not specifically. Like, I was expecting like I thought it was like a really like safe expectation, just like a new big Mario game or something, which we talked about last time. But I don't know, but like I think there's a difference between wanting and expecting.
Yeah.
And people they tend to skew towards the latter, and they don't know. I don't think they even realize that either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of builds these really problematic
this extremely toxic atmosphere that comes around these presentations, and sometimes it's justified. Like sometimes, last year, I already mentioned the Square Enix presentation. It was pretty widely mocked if you guys somehow didn't catch it, because it was like they went for 40 minutes, and about half of that was dedicated to just the Guardians of the Galaxy reveal. And this came right after Marvel's Avengers had finished leaving extremely sour taste in people's mouths. And it seemed like nothing that Eidos Montreal could do to say, no, this isn't going to be like that. We're not those people. This is not related to that. Could quell anybody's just pure salt over this.
And what sucks about that one is I think that 20-minute presentation was needed to show off exactly what this game and how it was. Otherwise, people would just say, "Oh, it's Marvel's Avengers 2," basically.
Exactly, and it was great. I put Guardians on my top 5 games of last year. So it worked out in the end. But at the time, oh boy, there was just hate being flung around like monkeys throwing poop at each other.
Yeah.
Dear Lord. And then every single time we get an Atlas presentation. Every Atlas presentation is a failure if it doesn't involve a Switch port for a Persona game. Every single time.
Yeah.
Like people are ravenous, and I kind of hate to say that it is mostly the Nintendo diehards. That it's not all of them. I've met plenty of lovely Nintendo stans, but
I mean, you're talking to one right now.
Yes, but it is an unfortunate reality that the way that we've seen a lot of people's business or a lot of companies' business plans pan out has led to a lot of people expecting a lot more than is ever going to happen realistically for the Switch and demanding a lot of it. Which I was kind of surprised by the fact that we actually got anything for the Integra Masterpiece Collection at this presentation. I felt like that was a bit of a hate magnet.
I was talking. I was like, "Yo, they should get it works."
Yeah, I remember that because you screamed, I told you they'd show it.
I told you it was Ario. He didn't think
like why did they show it? It's already almost here.
Because it's almost here.
They did announce right after that direct was done that there's going to be a day one patch.
Yes.
And they didn't say what it was going to do.
That was good news, but like this is a case where they've already kind of dug their grave on this one. There is no saving this PR disaster.
There is, I don't think so.
So in kind of connection to that, because we've kind of talked a lot about like how aside from a couple oddities, this was a really, really good presentation overall. And so what I wanted to ask you guys is, what do you think makes a good live stream presentation in terms of like ones like this where it's a big, broad, huge event where they're definitely going to announce something big, but also a lot of smaller stuff? What in your guys' opinion is like the formula?
So I don't think there's a definitive one.
Yeah.
Because it depends on what they want to do. Like, because I think ideally what people want the most is just back-to-back game presentations, but I think there is also merit in humorous skits like from Devolver, like how they do sometimes.
Oh my God.
Like,
we speaking of live stream presentations, we stand Devolver Digital. Long may they reign, the absolute kings of the medium.
They're really good at that. And then also I think it's also just a matter of like what like the context is, like what time of the year it is too. Like if it's in the fall or something, like I think the fall or like winter presentations tend to be bigger than spring or like summer, right? Like
sure, I mean that makes sense because like you can use that as an opportunity to boost console sales even more during the holiday season, and Q4 is where all these companies are really looking, or Q3 I guess in fiscal is the time when all these companies are looking to be like, hey, we grew even more over last year, and having a big presentation with a lot of game announcements that's like, hey, if you get a PS5 this Christmas, you can get God of War in the summer or whatever the heck. Like it's a big marketing tool.
What do you think, Nate?
I think so. This to me isn't like the most perfect one, but it gets pretty close to it. And I think out of all of them, Nintendo does get this right the most for me. Is I like the most to be surprised. That is to me the thing. I hate leaks and all this stuff and knowing exactly what's going to come. Mm-hmm. So, the more people are screaming, even though I want Breath of the Wild 2, the more people scream Breath of the Wild 2, the more I'm like, no, we're not going to get that. We're not going to get that. I want to be shocked, Earthbound.
A lot of good moments like that.
Yeah. So that's kind of why I'm like, oh my God, this thing, like Front Mission, I never even expected that. Earthbound, I never even expected Nintendo to acknowledge that series ever again. I would say I was kind of expecting something from Atlas because they tweeted something.
No, Nate. Oh no, you got played by Nathan.
Really?
Mr. Mejia got played like a fool too.
Really?
Nathan and Nazario got trolled. So here's the thing, right? Here's what happened, Nate. Right? So. For the viewers for the audio listeners there too. So
getting some inside Noisy Pixel team.
Yeah.
So last night, right? We were a bunch of us were in a voice call, right? And we were like trying to like prep up for this presentation today. And Azario, our boss, he was like, so he and I were talking, and he's like, oh. So apparently Atlas is gonna show something big tomorrow. Then I was like, wait, really? Then he was like, oh yeah, they said, oh, be sure to tune in tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. So, and I didn't ask like where he heard that. Like I assumed it was from like some like email or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wake up the next morning and I'm like scrolling through Twitter, and I see this like big tweet that's like blown up, right?
Yeah.
And I will quote the name for you right now. So
I'm just cringing. I'm cringing so hard.
So the account like username, not the at. So it says official Atlas West, right? So automatically you're gonna think that, and then the at says at Altus.
Oh yeah.
And
then they added this a little 7 in a bubble that looks vaguely like they have
it's very clever. It's very clever. And I was like, yo, Azari got played like a fool. And I didn't know Nathan got played like a fool too.
Oh my God.
So like it's not like that big of a deal for me. It's funnier as Azario, not big for a deal for me, because if you know my habits is I even looked it up because I was like, wait, was that real? Or did I make that up? Because I will just kind of scroll past it, kind of read it, kind of internalize the information, and then half forget it. So even I was unsure whether or not it existed, and I was like, I can't even find it. But I think the real thing I was really, really expecting, me and you talked about it last night, Bailey, was I was expecting something for Mega Man Battle Network. Because I feel like a Nintendo Direct would be the perfect place to announce something for it, even if it's going across console. I mean,
I do think for Battle Network, so I don't, so like for these prior Mega Man collections, they don't really get that much like marketing prior to release. So I think if they do like when they show it, it's gonna be soon after. So like maybe like the spring or summer. I can see them like announcing it maybe, and then coming out like later this year.
I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting it to come out like how the advanced collection for Castlevania came out. It's announced. Oh, it's out.
That would be insane. Yeah. I know a lot of people here in our staff really like Battle Network.
So the thing about that though is that the Mega Man collections get physicals, so they couldn't do that.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Well, I did say in the call, Shadow dropped the digital 2 weeks later for the physical.
I mean, yeah, I guess that could happen, but
yeah, because to keep it thing, they wouldn't ship it out till after they announced it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of with the idea that like the key to a really good one of these presentations is to deliver things like you have to have an even mix of, I think, things that the audience is expecting to see and things that they're not expecting to see. And I think that part of that is setting those expectations to begin with. So Nintendo has kind of done an okay job of that recently by specifically saying, hey, this is a third party showcase, or hey, this is an indie showcase. Don't expect to see, AAA Nintendo games here. Here's what we're going to show you. And Sony's kind of started to embrace this as well, because we're getting events that are specifically like, this is going to be a PSVR focused event, something like that, as opposed to, hey, if you like PlayStation, watch this 40-minute presentation and maybe there'll be one thing that you cared about in there. I think that a big part of setting yourself up for success in this arena is to make sure that you have people's expectations managed. Because like people just go off on the internet. They send their hate around without thinking about it, and that includes hate being directed towards these companies who probably aren't listening, but it makes the people that are paying attention to it just feel like you guys don't have to do it. They're not listening to your hate tweet, Charles. Like, I promise.
Charles.
I just drew a name off the top of my head.
Sure.
But like,
Colin's nemesis, Charles. That should be your character, man.
But it's just like, genuinely, we need to see more of these companies saying, hey, here's what this event is going to be.
Yeah.
Genuinely don't and it doesn't help when Nintendo then like does stuff like the Xenoblade reveal at the end of this event, where they specifically said this event is for games releasing in the first half of this year, and then they closed on an announcement for a game that's coming in September. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that muddies the waters too much to me. Like, I'm happy that for the people that were really waiting for the announcement, but they do it a lot. Like, they'll say, hey, this is what this presentation is for, or hey, this is for games that are releasing in this time window. And then they'll show off like some completely brand new thing at the end of the direct because they have everybody's attention. But it kind of wrecks the ability to manage expectations, because now people are expecting, the Marvel after credits scene for their Nintendo Direct, where they announce, Mario Kart 9 or Pokemon Gun, or
I guess it's just more like
Super Smash Brothers more Ultimate.
I kind of understand them, like I kind of understand the idea, because they do want to have like a lot of like staying power. Because like if you just stick to a script you abide like that, they abide by, like, even if it's really cool games coming out in a certain time frame, there is like, I think there is merit in like surprising like people beyond what they've stated, but like I don't think it being a consistent thing is necessarily good for what like the reasons you said, like a once in a while thing maybe.
It makes it difficult because we come to expect it. Again, like the after credits scene in a Marvel movie, like you don't leave after the credits. You stay because you know that there's going to be something there, and setting that expectation for there being something there now means that there has to be something there. And anytime Nintendo doesn't put it there, then people get freaking pissed about it. And that's how we come back to, where was my Zelda? Where was my Pokemon? Where was my Smash Brothers? So I'm hoping that, as we come up on the end of the Switch and the beginning of whatever's next, that Nintendo learns to, diversify their events. If you have to have more, I don't have a problem with that. We have fun doing this stuff. Like, it's hectic, but, we all enjoy collaborating and working together and doling out like who takes what. That's fun for us. And it's fun to generate a lot of site traffic. But it's also like, I get that you have a lot of eyes on you, but also you're Nintendo. If you tell people that, hey, you're going to want to pay attention to this because like we're going to show like a huge thing, then people will pay attention. It's that's just kind of all there is to it. They've got plenty of people watching. They just got to know how to set up the dominoes so that they fall in a way that people are happy with. And I think that they succeeded in that tonight. So you guys have any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts, just kind of rounding up a little bit what you said. It makes it a little bit hard too, because of fake leakers who are there just for clout. So that makes it hard. But I think the best way to go into these things is 100% to just mitigate your own expectations. You know, have your wants, but going into it, just be there to try to be even slightly surprised and happy for other people. And I think that's how I come away from 99% of these presentations, even the really bad ones. I come out happy.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Bailey?
I'm pretty much mimicking what Nathan said. Just like I feel like people, I think to get the most enjoyment out of these directs is to kind of just pay attention to yourself and your own like inner close circle of friends that you know. Because I feel like if you pay attention to what the internet like wants, it's gonna always be a disappointment. You know, like no matter how personally fulfilling a direct may be, it's gonna never appease everyone, and you kind of have to realize that.
Yeah, my big final summary is leave Sakurai alone. He deserves it, and that's all that there is to it for this week. So thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Stray Pixels podcast. We post every Tuesday on your podcast app of choice and also on the Noisy Pixel YouTube channel. For this week, what was your least expected announcement from the Nintendo Direct? We obviously had a lot of them and we're very excited to talk about them. So let us know in the comments what you guys thought about it. Also, let us know if there's anything you'd like us to talk about on a future episode. You can leave a comment under this YouTube video or talk to us on Twitter. You can find me, Colin, at the Arcane Ranger. You can find Nate at less than Nate, and you can find Bailey at Orpheus Joshua, or you can find Noisy Pixel itself at Noisy Pixel News. The Stray Pixels podcast is brought to you by NoisyPixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to bring you the latest news, reviews, podcasts, and more. Please like, subscribe, and follow to keep up with our future content, and we will see you next week. Bye.
See you, everybody.
Bye.